The 10 working principles for a healthy society. Principle number 2, focus on solving problems rather than winning arguments. It's possible to predict the outcome of a marriage, whether or not it's going to divorce, with great accuracy. And I'm not just saying that because I've got a really good eye for this. I just have this unique ability to spot things. There's actually been a fair amount of research done on this by some really good researchers. One of those is Dr. Gottman, and Dr. Gottman has been researching this for decades, and there's a marriage lab involved. There's all kinds of observation of couples, and longitudinal data has been collected to determine whether or not the presence of certain characteristics predicted who was going to get a divorce and who didn't, or other characteristics predicted whether somebody was going to get a divorce or they weren't. And across time, it's really been narrowed down to certain traits and characteristics that predict whether you're going to get a divorce or not. And I'm going to tell you what they are right now, and then we're going to talk about what to do about them. This has been derived from 7 different studies that Dr. Gottman has done. And these studies included all different kinds of couples, those that were divorced, those that remained together that were happy, and those that remained together that were miserable. And from these studies, Dr. Gottman found that couples that eventually get divorced tend to have conversations about conflicts with one or more of the following features. So I want you to think about these, write them down. They're going to be on the website, but you need to ask yourself, do I have one or more of these following features in my communication pattern with my significant other? And if you do, then I can tell you that you're likely to get a divorce, and I can tell you that with 94% accuracy. Now think about what I just said. If you do one or more of the 6 things I'm getting ready to tell you, research says there's a better than 9 out of 10 chance you're going to wind up getting a divorce. And that means one of 2 things. You either just ought to go ahead and get it now and save yourself the trouble, or you better change what you're doing. So what's number 1? Number 1 is couples that tend to wind up getting a divorce manage conflicts with what is called a harsh setup. Now, what we're talking about here is there is an obvious sign from the get-go, from word one, that this conflict is not going to go well because it starts with sarcasm and other negative forms of communication. That can be criticism or other expressions of contempt. And when I say sarcasm, it can be mocking the other person, mocking the way they talk, mocking what they say. It can be, you're just like your father. Oh, you're just like your mother. How does anybody ever respond to that? I mean, you're attacking their parent. So if it begins with a very harsh setup where there's sarcasm, mocking, criticism, character assassination, where whatever the issue or topic was, that has been pushed to the side. This has gotten personal, and there is an attack on the individual's character, worth, and value. People that do that in arguments wind up divorced 94% of the time. Number 2 are the 4 horsemen. And these are 4 forms of negativity that have been shown to be so devastating to a marriage that Dr. Gottman referred to these as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And these are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And by the way, they actually occur in that order. It starts out with criticism and then contempt for the other person, which draws defensiveness from the other person, and then they wind up just stonewalling. It's just like the garage door comes down, and now you're just talking to a wall. Conversation dries up. I got nothing to say to you. They shut down mentally, emotionally, physically, and typically withdraw from the situation. So the 4 horsemen are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling in that order. So think about your conflict patterns. Because it's not just that this happens once. If this has happened once in your relationship, or it happens once a year or occasionally, that doesn't mean you're going to get a divorce. But if these things occur in pattern, this is the pattern with which you communicate and deal with conflict, that's when you can predict that they're going to lead to divorce. So ask yourself, what's your pattern of communication with your significant other? Dr. James Kimmel Jr., a researcher at Yale University, we're addressing the adverse physical effects that anger and revenge have on the brain, and that the brain, therefore, has on behavior of some people. Research says that this anger, this retaliatory behavior, is just as addictive as opioids, making them extremely difficult to resist for some people that get into this loop. You're very active in this area, and it's not what you think, it's what you know. You've done a lot of research, so you come at this empirically, and that's what is so impressive about what you espouse about this. What got you so interested in this?
Well, what got me interested in this was my own personal experience as a teenager, as I explained to you when we last met, talking about this group of guys from my high school that came to my home one night, shot and killed my dog. And I had this very strong urge to retaliate against them, and I wanted to kill them as a result of that. I was able to overcome that at the very last second. I mean, by the time I stopped myself, I had a gun in my hands. But I wasn't able to shake the desire for justice that I was seeking. And we have two meanings for justice. There's justice that's fairness and equity and righteousness, and there's justice that means retaliation and vengeance. And the one that I was seeking was retaliation and vengeance. And I couldn't shake it. I became a lawyer for it, and then I ended up paying a high price as a lawyer as well. By spending a life where I was being paid to hurt other people. I mean, a litigator, a lawyer, is often being paid on behalf of a client to retaliate against, to hurt the person who hurt them. Whether you're a plaintiff's lawyer or a defense lawyer and you're trying to defend that. But in either side of that model, it's really what it's about is that socially acceptable retaliation, which is better than street vengeance. It's a step forward in human progress, but I believe we can go beyond this, beyond that level.
You say you did this as a lawyer and paid a high price for it. Did you think that you were in the loop that you've now identified as a lawyer? Did you get the payoff in the moment when you were a lawyer and you would exact that pound of flesh?
I sure did. I got it over and over again, and that... at the time, this is 15 years ago, I didn't understand what was happening to me. But I sure knew that every time I would win something as simple as a motion or even an email, a pissing contest between lawyers, and that's what happens. Every one of those gets you a little high or a little shot, a little victory, where you feel, kind of high as a kite. And then you're left sort of feeling worse, but chasing it down again and wanting that hit again. And again, and again. And what was particularly fascinating for me is I was seeing this same behavior in my clients. I began to think that I was selling them a drug because they were willing to pay me ungodly sums of money to get these hits of pleasure as well every time I was able to, inflict some pain or suffering on the other side, whether it was the other side's lawyer or the person that they were representing. As this progressed, it's so conflicted with, what my inner values were for as being a human being and starting to realize I'm being paid to hurt other people. That was a tough realization for me, and I didn't see a way out of it. And I felt very hooked into this lifestyle and into this mess. And this brought me to a point of such depression and despondency, that I was considering suicide at one point. And that realization that and this is what the thing was, I felt I wanted justice against me. I wanted revenge against me at that point. And that's when I thought, this looks like an addiction. This doesn't seem like normal behavior. This seems like what I knew from people who were addicted to narcotics or alcohol or tobacco. This seemed like that. But no, there was nothing in the literature. Nobody was at that time, and only until recently, largely me, have figured this out and concluded that this is an addictive process. And that only came really from my personal experience of looking at addiction and seeing myself as an addicted person. And then, God struck with this fantastic set of neuroscientists who have been doing studies at what's going on inside the human brain when somebody is harmed and they're retaliating. And to my amazement, the exact same brain structures and neural pathway that's activated for substance addiction is being activated or was being activated for somebody like me who's caught in this revenge-seeking cycle for pleasure. And that's what it's all about. When somebody hurts you, you retaliate for pleasure. You're trying to make yourself feel better from the pain of the grievance.
Laura Nyrider is a clinical professor of law and co-director of the Center on Wrongful Convictions at Northwestern Pritzker School of Law in Chicago. Now, Laura represents individuals who were wrongfully convicted of crimes when they were children or teenagers. Her clients have included Brendan Dassey, whose case was profiled in the Netflix global series Making a Murderer, and Damien Eccles of the West Memphis Three, whose case was profiled in the documentary West of Memphis. Dave Thompson is the president of Wicklander Zulawski and Associates, Inc. He is also a leader in non-confrontational interview and interrogation training. He doesn't want to demonize police in any way, and like me, is a supporter of law enforcement. But there are some that abuse the system. Dave incorporated evidence-based investigative interrogation, which focuses on building genuine rapport, asking open-ended questions, and using academic research to train for investigative interviews. Together, they have a collaboration that, let's face it, is a bit unexpected. A defense lawyer and a law enforcement trainer, which they will also tell us about. I work with law enforcement as well, doing training and all, and I've been asked over the years so many times, is Stephen Avery guilty and is Brendan Dassey guilty? I've given the same answer every time, and that is, all I can tell you for sure is that neither one has ever had a fair trial. Don't know if they did or didn't. I can tell you what I think. What I know is they've never had a fair trial.
Well, look, I can speak only as Brendan's lawyer, but I've represented Brendan Dassey for 15 years now. And my work on his case and getting to know this young man who was 17 when I met him, he is 33 years old now. I am so proud to represent Brendan Dassey. The only evidence connecting him to this murder is this confession we're talking about, where he's not even able to describe what happened. Every citizen who cares about truth, who cares about due process, who cares about reliability in our criminal justice system should be jumping off their couches and, rushing out there to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Not to Brendan, not to any other special education student, not to any other kid, not to any of us, right? The way the system let that boy, now man, down is just heartbreaking.
Laura provided the opportunity for us a few weeks ago to chat with Brendan. And I think it's important for me to be able to say how kind and inspiring Brendan Dassey is. And I can't imagine anybody I've talked to. I know we had Terrell Swift on your show. Anybody I've talked to that's been kind of a victim of this process, it just amazes me the hope and the positivity and the focus that they have. Because they know who they are and they know what they did or did not do. And Brendan's just one of the positive, most inspirational piece of this whole puzzle, I think.
Yeah. He's 33, as I said. And, Brendan I've watched him grow up. He's grown up into this unbelievably kind, gentle, funny person who still has this childlike faith that one day justice is going to come for him. It's remarkable. After making a murderer, all these people around the globe, millions and millions of people saw his story. They started writing Brendan letters, right? From all over the globe. You'd get these letters. He still gets like 5 or 10 letters every day
Really?
from ordinary people who just, it's nothing profound or eloquent, who just put down on a piece of paper, hey, Brendan, hang in there. I'm thinking of you. I believe in you. Hold your head up high. The truth is going to come out. This kind of stuff. He still gets these letters every day. He keeps them. And he writes back to as many people as he can.
When I say go, and not until I say go, I want you to say one of 4 things. You're going to say, I trust you, I don't trust you, I don't know if I trust you, or I'd rather not say. Go. I trust you. All right, B, go. Okay, all right, hold on. Okay, no talking. If you are a Republican, if you are on the right side of the room, raise your hand. All right, you on the left, find a new partner right quick. Lefts, find somebody with one that's got their hand in the air. All right. You should now have a new partner. Somebody from the left and somebody from the right. Make eye contact. Look this person in the eye. Consider them as a human being. When I say go, I trust you, I don't trust you, I don't know if I trust you, or I'd rather not say. A, go. All right, B, go. Okay, if you're from the right, raise your hand. Left, find a new partner one more time. Eye contact, consider this person. I mean, really, don't just go through the motions, just think about this person. What did they go through today? Have they lost a loved one lately? Are they having financial trouble? Have they accomplished something great lately? Are they lonely? Did they just get engaged? All right, B, your turn, go. All right. Okay, everybody have a seat. Well, that's just a real simple little experiential exercise. First off, without any structure, what was your reaction? What did you experience?
When you were asking the questions about what did they do this morning? Did they lose a loved one? Like all these questions that you might be asking about yourself and things that you might really consider important to yourself, you realize that there's someone behind these political ideals, someone that may be dealing with issues that you yourself might be dealing with. And it's not all just about what we disagree on.
I completely agree with you. I think I felt with each and the 3 of them, I felt very connected. Wasn't even considering their affiliation or their identity. I just saw a human being and had that empathy.
It also made me think that it's a lot harder to say you don't trust someone to someone you're looking straight at, whereas it's so much easier to hide behind a screen and kind of assume things about people when you're looking at them in the face and kind of thinking about these questions, like seeing them as a person. It's a lot different.
Yeah.
When you were asking me to look at this person and view them as a human being, it was something that I already knew what to do, but at the same time, I also realized that I sometimes personally forget to do that.
Yeah. How about you?
I just saw everyone as a human. Before you ask those questions, and my partners that I had, they can testify to this. It was just, we looked at each other, we laughed. There was no tension. There was no, oh, I wanna strangle this person. Not that I ever feel that way. I'm just saying, like, it can get to that extreme, right? If we're pushed to those limits. But here I was with a stranger, laughing, smiling.
How'd you decide who was A or B?
I just went for it.
Yeah.